This is the North Carolina DAP Review Essay Writing portion. Question 1 says, based on the content of this introductory paragraph, what type of essay is the student writing? The correct answer is C, persuasive essay. Look at the thesis sentence, sentence 6. It says, social networking can be addicting and people should moderate their usage. The word should means the writer wants to persuade the readers to change their behavior. That is a key characteristic of persuasive essays. Option A, cause and effect, is incorrect. The thesis sentence does not indicate the writer wants to analyze the relationship between an event and outcomes of that event. Comparison-contrast essay, option B, is also incorrect. Nothing in the paragraph or the thesis indicates the author plans to analyze the similarities and/or differences of two people, places, or things. And finally, option D, example essay, is incorrect as well. Even though the list in sentence 3 may lead us to believe the writer is going to use examples, the wording of the thesis, people should moderate their usage, proves that the writer's true intention is to persuade the readers to change their behavior. Question 2 asks, which sentence indicates what the student plans to prove in the essay, the thesis statement? Option A cannot be the thesis because it asks a question. A thesis statement informs the reader of two essential pieces of information, the topic of the essay and the point the writer plans to prove. The thesis cannot be presented as a question. Sentence 2 cannot be the thesis either. It identifies the overall topic of the essay, social networking websites, but it does not identify what the writer plans to prove. Unless a sentence both identifies the topic of the essay and makes a provable point, it is not the thesis of the essay. Sentence 5 cannot be the thesis statement either because it does not clearly identify the topic of the overall essay, nor does it state what the writer plans to prove. Sentence 6 is correct. This sentence both identifies the topic of the essay, social networking, and makes a provable point. People should moderate their usage. Question 3 says, what method does this student use to get the reader's attention focused on the overall topic? Answer A, making a controversial statement, is incorrect. Remember that the writer has to get the reader interested at the very beginning of the introductory paragraph, so the first sentence or first few sentences are called the attention getters. With that in mind, notice that the first sentence of this writer's introduction is a question, not a shocking or controversial statement. Answer B, asking a question, is correct. The writer asks a question to create curiosity and make the reader keep reading to find the answer. Answer C, making a shocking statement, is also incorrect. The first sentence is in the form of a question, not a statement of any kind. And answer D, all of the above, is obviously incorrect because there are no controversial or shocking statements in the paragraph at all. Question 4 states, based on the content of this introductory paragraph, what type of essay is the student writing? Answer A, cause and effect essay, is incorrect. Nothing in the paragraph indicates the writer plans to analyze the relationship between an event and outcomes of that event. Answer B, comparison-contrast essay, is also incorrect. If this essay were comparison-contrast, the author would clearly identify two different topics that had something clearly in common. However, all the sentences in this paragraph lead to the conclusion that there is only one subject in this essay, athletic trainers' responsibilities. Answer C. Example essay is the correct answer. Two different clues indicate this is correct. First, Sentence 6 lists several different responsibilities or tasks that athletic trainers do. Next, the thesis statement, Sentence 7, starts with the phrase, "for all these reasons," which signals that the essay will focus on examples to prove the thesis is true. Answer D, persuasive essay, is finally incorrect. Persuasive essays attempt to convince the reader to change a belief or behavior. Thesis statements in persuasive essays usually include the word should or must. Neither of these is happening in sentence 7, which is the thesis statement. Question 5 asks, what is the topic of this essay? Answer A, football, is incorrect. Football is definitely mentioned, but the writer is clearly more interested in the athletic trainers who assist football players than the game of football itself. Notice that the word football doesn't even appear after the first sentence, so it must not be the subject of the entire essay. Answer B, football players, is also incorrect. Football players are never specifically identified anywhere in the paragraph, although references are made to players of sports in general. Therefore, football players cannot be the subject of the entire essay. Answer C, athletic trainers, is incorrect. It is true that the words athletic trainers show up repeatedly throughout the paragraph. However, starting in sentence 4, the emphasis is clearly on the work athletic trainers do, as seen in words like responsibilities, duties, and working. Answer D, athletic trainers' responsibilities, is correct. Starting in sentence 4, the emphasis is clearly on the work athletic trainers do, as seen in those words responsibilities, duties, and working. Add to that the list of responsibilities included in sentence 6 and the phrase "for all these reasons" at the beginning of the thesis statement, and the correct answer is clearly athletic trainers' responsibilities. Question 6. Which sentence indicates what the student plans to prove in the essay, the thesis statement? Answer A, sentence 1, is incorrect. Sentence 1 asks a question. Please remember, the thesis statement must clearly identify the topic of the essay and say something provable about that topic. Also, a thesis is always in the form of a statement that gives information rather than a question that requests information. Answer B, sentence 2, is also incorrect. Sentence 2 states a fact. It identifies athletic trainers and defines the term. There is nothing in the sentence that requires proof. A thesis sentence always indicates a provable point. Answer C, sentence 6, is also incorrect. Sentence 6 did a great job of listing athletic trainers' responsibilities. However, it did not include the specific point this writer plans to prove later in the essay. Athletic trainers clearly deserve recognition for everything they do. Answer D, sentence 7, is correct. This sentence clearly identifies the overall topic of the essay, athletic trainers, and makes a provable point about them. They deserve recognition for everything they do. Question 7 asks, which sentence best indicates the topic of this body paragraph? Answer A, sentence 1, is correct. Since this is a body paragraph, the first sentence should clearly identify the topic that will be analyzed in the rest of that particular paragraph. Note the phrases "in regards to personal appearance" and "these two artists." Clearly, the writer intends to focus only on the topic of appearance of two artists in this body paragraph. Answer B, sentence 2, is incorrect. This sentence does mention appearance, but it focuses on only one artist, not both. Since this does not mention the other artist, it is not broad enough to cover what the writer plans to discuss. This sentence must be a supporting detail rather than a topic sentence. Answer C, sentence 6, is incorrect. This sentence does mention details about one artist's appearance, but like answer B, it doesn't mention both artists. It is not broad enough to cover all that the writer plans to prove in this body paragraph. Like sentence 2, it is a supporting detail. Answer D, sentence 9, is incorrect. This sentence emphasizes which artist wins in the category of appearance based on the evidence covered in the body paragraph. Since it does not include both topics, it cannot be the topic sentence. Question 8. Ask, after reading the previous body paragraph, which transitional word or phrase would be most appropriate at the beginning of sentence 5? Answer A, as a result, is incorrect. This transitional phrase works perfectly when the writer wants to lead to the results or outcomes of an event or situation that has just been discussed. However, in this paragraph, the writer is not focusing on results or outcomes. The writer is comparing, contrasting two artists. So the writer needs a transition that shows comparison or contrast. Answer B, next, is incorrect. This transitional word would be appropriate if the writer were working through a series of examples or a list of causes or effects. However, the writer is comparing, contrasting two artists, so the writer needs a transition that shows comparison or contrast. Answer C, on the other hand, is correct. This transitional phrase tells the reader that the writer has finished talking about one subject and is about to talk about the other. It also indicates that the writer will be emphasizing how the two subjects of the essay are different. Answer D, secondly, is incorrect. Secondly would work if the writer were developing the second in a series of examples. That is not the case in this paragraph. Question 9 asks, what is the purpose of sentence 9? Answer A, to provide another minor supporting detail about Jill Scott's appearance is incorrect. This sentence summarizes all the information about the winning artist's appearance. It does not provide any new information or details. Answer B, to summarize the paragraph, is incorrect. It is true that this sentence does summarize the paragraph, but it does more than summarize. The reason this answer is incorrect is it does not fully identify the purposes of the summary sentence. Answer C, to emphasize the winner of the appearance category, is also incorrect. Like answer B, it does not fully identify the purposes of the summary sentence. Answer D, to both summarize the paragraph and emphasize the writer's preference, is correct. The final sentence of each body paragraph should give the reader a sense of completion. The final sentence of this paragraph gives that sense of completion by summarizing the information within the paragraph and emphasizing that the evidence indicates that Jill Scott is the winner of the appearance category according to this writer. Question 10 asks, based on your reading, which of the following should be inserted at the beginning of the paragraph as a topic sentence? Answer A, the importance of knowledge for criminal justice majors, is incorrect. The topic sentence must be a complete sentence, which means it will have a subject, a verb, and a complete thought. This group of words is a sentence fragment. It does not include a verb or a complete thought. Answer B, Gaston College offers a state-certified criminal justice program, is also incorrect. The topic sentence must include the topic of the paragraph and say something provable about that topic. This sentence does clearly identify the topic of criminal justice, but there is not a provable point. This sentence is a statement of fact. It does not need to be proven. It is already accepted as truth. Answer C, earning a criminal justice degree is beneficial in several ways, is incorrect. While it is a complete sentence that identifies a topic, earning a criminal justice degree, and it does make a provable point, the rest of the paragraph does not prove the point is true. That means this topic sentence will not work. Answer D. Expanding each student's knowledge of the law is one of the most important aspects of earning a criminal justice degree is correct. It both identifies the specific topic of this essay, expanding each student's knowledge of criminal justice, and it makes a provable point, is one of the most important aspects. Most importantly, all the supporting details in the paragraph prove this sentence is true. Question 11 asks, after reading the previous body paragraph, which transitional word or phrase would be most appropriate at the beginning of sentence 4? Answer A, also, is correct. It indicates that the first supporting detail is complete and the writer is moving into the second supporting detail, or a next supporting detail. Answer B, as a result, is incorrect. The transitional phrase, as a result, means that the point the writer just covered causes the point he or she is moving to. In this case, knowing the definition of legal and illegal activity, which is established in sentence 2, does not make students know a particular community's laws. Therefore, as a result, would give the reader a false idea of the relationship between the supporting details in this paragraph. Answer C, on the other hand, is also incorrect. This transitional phrase indicates that contrasting information is about to occur. The sentence 4 is not in contrast to the previous sentences. It is additional information, so a contrast transition clearly will not work. Answer D, finally, is incorrect. It indicates the author is about to make his final supporting detail. This was the second supporting detail in the paragraph, so the word finally would lead the reader to a wrong conclusion. Question 12 asks, which of the following sentences would make the best summary sentence for this paragraph? Answer A is incorrect. The purpose of summary sentence is to give the reader a sense of completion and having learned enough to judge whether the writer is correct. The words "there are many others" leaves the reader without a sense of completion and the idea that he or she does not have all the important details. Answer B is also incorrect. Again, the purpose of summary sentence is to give the reader a sense of completion and having learned enough to judge whether the writer is correct. This paragraph did not include information about being in top physical condition, so it should not be referred to in the summary sentence. Answer C is correct. This sentence does not refer to any topic except taking time to learn the law. It also emphasizes learning the law is one of the most important aspects of earning a criminal justice degree by stating that learning the law benefits criminal justice majors. Answer D is incorrect. Since answers A and B are incorrect, answer D, all of the above, cannot be correct. Question 13 asks, what is or are the purpose or purposes of a conclusion? Answer A is incorrect. It is true that the conclusion should include a restatement of the thesis, using different words but with the same meaning. However, the conclusion must do more than restate the thesis. Answer B is incorrect. It is true that the conclusion almost always includes a summary of the major supporting details that were developed in the body paragraphs. However, the conclusion must do more than summarize the major supporting details. Answer C is also incorrect. Certainly, the conclusion should give the reader a sense of completion, but this is impossible without including the restatement of the thesis and usually a summary of supporting details. Answer D is correct. A well-written conclusion should include a restatement of the thesis and a summary of the major supporting details. Including both of these will give the reader a sense of completion. Question 14 asks, according to this conclusion, what was the topic of this essay? Answer A is incorrect. Clearly, this conclusion summarizes an essay that tells people how to prepare for old age, but old age itself is not the subject. Answer B is correct. The first sentence of the conclusion states, if people make good decisions, old age can truly be a golden time. The emphasis is on good decision making. Please remember that the first sentence of the conclusion is the restatement of the thesis statement, which identifies what the whole essay is about and what the author intended to prove. Answer C is incorrect. If you read the restatement of the thesis in sentence 1, you will see that senior adults' physical health is not mentioned. That is because it is not the primary focus of the essay. However, you will notice that sentences 2 through 6 all mention aspects of physical health. Those are summaries of supporting details, which are proof that the thesis statement is true. The supporting details are of secondary importance to the thesis statement. And finally, answer D is incorrect. If you reread the restatement of the thesis in sentence 1, you will see that senior adults' diets are not mentioned. That is because diet is not the primary focus of the essay. However, you will notice that sentence 3 does mention changing dietary habits. This is a summary of a supporting detail that was developed in an earlier body paragraph, and it is proof that the thesis statement is true. This essay was about more than dietary choices, so this option must be incorrect. Question 15 asks, based on the summary of the major supporting details found in the middle of this conclusion, how many body paragraphs did this essay have? Answer A, 3, is incorrect. Reread sentences 3 through 6. The following are listed as areas where people can make good choices: diet, exercise, habits, and activities. 4 are listed, so option A, 3, must be wrong. Answer B, 4, is correct. Again, notice sentences 3 through 6. The following 4 are listed as areas where people can make good choices: diet, exercise, habits, and activities. Answer C, 5, is incorrect. Only 4 supporting details were mentioned: diet, exercise, habits, and activities. So 5 must be wrong. Answer D, 7, is incorrect. Sentences 3 through 6 only list 4 areas where people can make good choices. The fact that there are 7 sentences in this conclusion does not indicate that there are 7 major supporting details. In fact, sentence 1 is a restatement of the thesis statement, so it does not count as a supporting detail. And sentence 7 both summarizes the overall meaning of the essay and seems to encourage readers to make good choices.